Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Riffin with HB. This episode we're going to be covering the Grateful Dead. Hold on one sec. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Riffin with HB. Sorry, I had to fix my orientation. We're covering the Grateful Dead today due to Bob Weir's passing this past week. So we're going to be talking about the Grateful Dead. We're going to show a couple clips from the band, from him and Jerry Garcia, and we're going to talk about their legacy and what they've done for the world, and as far as music and psychedelics and really changing people's minds is concerned. Appreciate everyone being here. We don't have any LSD, but we do have a little bit of a psilocybin mushroom tincture. So, well, in honor of Bob Weir, we're going to do a shot of mushroom tincture. So, cheers, Bob, RIP, man, and Jerry Garcia as well, and everybody in the Grateful Dead. Cheers, cheers. Thank y'all for being here. And we'll get to the end of the show. I want to talk more specifically about Bob. We'll kind of highlight him a little bit, but I also have a clip from him in the show as well. But let's just California, Alto, California. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. And guys, forgive me if I pronounce any of these words wrong. It's just some research I do before the show. It's like I was explaining. Grateful Dead's not a band I'm super familiar with, but I'm happy to cover because I have so much respect for them and I have for so long. Cheers, Sam. What's up, buddy? So they formed in California near the San Francisco Bay Area, and their name originally was the Warlocks. Whenever they had to they evolved from a jug band called the Mother Creed's Uptown Jug Champions, and then they were forced to change their name for the Grateful Dead after another band had put out an album under that same name, the Warlocks. So, how they chose the name the Grateful Dead, the Grateful name was chosen from a dictionary. The definition was the soul of a dead person or his angel showing gratitude for someone who, as an act of charity, arranged their burial. So, it's the Grateful Dead. The term the Grateful Dead comes from somebody who pays for somebody's burial, or maybe a community of people who get together and help support somebody in a time of when they die. I think that's really honorable, really great. And I got some clips and pictures here along the way as well too. um, there's actually a few different stories about how they came about the name. One person claimed that they had he picked it during a game of Fictionary. One person claimed that there was some DMT smoking involved with the picking of the name. So there's a little bit of discrepancy and debate on it, but more than likely it probably came from him picking it out of a dictionary and saying, just reading the quote. It's like one of those synchronicity things. Just happened to be. Let's see here. Just a picture of the band for you guys. It shows them on stage. I can't remember what year this is, so I don't want to speak wrong. Yeah. All right. It says right here that the Grateful Dead was an American rock band formed in Palo Alto, California in '65, known for their electric style that fused elements of rock, blues, jazz, folk, country, bluegrass, rock and roll, gospel, reggae, on and on and on. That's one thing about the Grateful Dead. They had a wide variety and mix of music. Um, Also, psychedelic rock band, which is why they kind of were famous for this. The band was famous for improvisations during their live performances and for their devoted fan base known as the Deadheads. According to the musician um, and writer Lenny Kaye, the music for the Grateful Dead touches on grounds that most other groups don't even know exist. And for the ranges of their influences and their structure. So yeah, this they created jam band, the idea of what a jam band is. They influenced people like Jefferson Airplane and Pink Floyd. These bands were all coming out around 65, around 66. I think Pink Floyd came out in 67. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it's all about the same time period. And these people were influenced by the idea that people could just get on stage and make their music their own, and it created each time. Jerry Garcia, he claimed that he never played a song the same way twice. And I kind of like that because a lot of bands, they have a scripture, or the way they play their song is the way it's going to be heard. A lot of classic bands, you go on stage and hear them and see them perform, you're going to see the same song that you've heard or seen them perform hundreds of times in the same exact way, more than likely. I want to list the band members here. The band members are lead guitar and vocals are Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir. RIP to Bob Weir, recently in passing. The drums, we got Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann. I'm probably butchering these names, my guys. I'm sorry so bad. And then I have a list of people here who were all in the band. I want to give everybody credit, but these are just the main people of the band. Let me actually pull that up for you guys now. So this is everybody who's been in the band. These are all the past members: Jerry Garcia, Bill Kreutzmann, Phil Leash, Ron McKerman, Bob Weir, Mickey Hart, Robert Hunter, Tom Constantin, John Barlow. I'm butchering these names. You guys can see it here for yourself. I want to give everybody in the band respect. So this is all the past members of the Grateful Dead. Of course, Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir, they had a huge impact of the band. They were the face of the band, but I like to give everybody respect. Another important thing I want to highlight here is, Grateful Dead had several spin-off bands, more than several, as you can see here. So after the band came to an end in 95 after Jerry Garcia's death, they have so many different ones. Dead and Company, for example, is the band with John Mayer as their guitarist. It's really a great band. John Mayer is a great guitarist, one of my favorite guitarists too, by the way, should mention. So they do some great stuff together. He actually sings for the Grateful Dead. They have a couple of shows of them doing shows in the Las Vegas Sphere with John Mayer performing. So it's really nice if you want to check some of that out. Let's play a scene right here from Jerry.
What we're thinking about is a peaceful planet. We're not thinking about anything. We're not thinking about any of those kind of struggles. We're not thinking about revolution or war or any of that. That's not what we want. Nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to hurt anybody. We would all like to be able to live an uncluttered life, a simple life, a good life, and think about moving the whole human race ahead a step or a few steps. And or a half a step or anything.
Or at least not more positive. At least not going around in circles like it is now.
That was a little clip from Jerry Garcia right there talking about the impact that they were trying to have on the world. And boy, did they do it. We're going to get into the idea of them spreading the message of love and using psychedelics to do so later on here on the show. I want to mention here that the band came to an end in 1995 after Garcia's death. He died in his sleep from a heart attack in a drug rehab center in California with a smile on his face, reportedly. He was dealing with several factors. He had obesity, sleep apnea, diabetes. There were several factors that attributed to his death, but he was in a rehab center trying to get clean from drugs. He had a lifelong use of substance abuse, so he was trying to get clean. And despite having only despite only having one top 40 singles in their 30-year career, they remained one of the best-selling artists in America. Let me pull up a clip here. Not a clip, rather, but a piece of a Wikipedia article for you guys. So it says right here, the Grateful Dead, they were among the highest grossing American touring acts for decades. They gained a committed fan base by word of mouth and through the exchange of their live recordings. So their bands, whenever they first became a band, they would record their shows and then they would sell them to people or give them to people in the audience, and the word of mouth would spread. So Because the band allowed the taping of the shows, is what it claims here. In 2024, they broke the record for the most top 40 albums on the Billboard 200 charts. Rolling Stone ranked the Grateful Dead number 57 on its 2011 list of the 100 greatest all-time artists of all time, and the band was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994. A recording of their, and that's 1 year just before his death, I should mention this, that's very nice. And a recording of their May 8th, 1977 performance at the Cornell University Barton Hall was added to the National Recording Registry of the Library of Congress. This is where Bob Weir and Lesh had, and Hart, the remaining members of the band, they were playing at the Kennedy Center honors, and I think it was the 200 or so. I have a picture of them playing in it. We'll play here in just a little bit. You guys are very familiar with the idea of the symbols of the Grateful Dead. These are the logos, and this is, again, goes back to the idea of the Grateful Dead. The term for it being, let me read this out of my book so I don't get it right. The soul of a dead person or his angel showing gratitude for someone who has who, as an act of charity, arranged their burial. So that's pretty nice. This is why you get the flowers growing out of the skeleton pictures, or this classic symbol of the lightning strike going through the skull, because these are the Grateful Dead. These are the members, the band, or sorry, the followers, the Deadheads. Let's watch a little clip here. This is a clip that I'm sure most of you guys.
And when we landed, the first person that I saw, how are you going to go on? I said, apparently 2 bands after you. He goes, well, you make it so comfortable. It was like 12:30, 1 in the morning, in the afternoon. So we're not going to go on until like 1 in the morning. And I go, oh, I guess we're going to go around 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, in the meantime, you want some of this? And I was like, sure. You know, the math between, like, yeah, I'll be fine by then.
What was it?
It was acid. You know, it was LSD. And so I went, whoop. And as soon as I took it, it was like, everything became,
One second. Sorry about the lag too, by the way, you guys. Yeah, that's a clip of Carlos Santana talking about his '69 Woodstock experience, which you guys probably know. The psychedelic community is really famous because he got super high on acid that he was given to by Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead, and he started playing one of his famous songs. I forget the name of the song. It's Soul something. But anyway, the name, when he was playing the song on Woodstock, he said the neck of the guitar was like flailing around on him. So that's how high he was on LSD. And thanks to Jerry Garcia, it changed his career and made him the person who he was, because he gave him that LSD and allowed him to do exactly what Jerry Garcia was famous for doing: is getting on stage, getting high on LSD, and just being very free. There's a quote from him saying that doing a album in a recording studio, like on a record, is like trying to put a ship in a bottle, but being on stage performing live is like rowing a boat in the ocean. I thought that was very poetic and very true, because when you're live and you don't hold yourself down to this is the way our song has to sound, you become a jam band and you're free just to jam and do whatever you want. I love it. couple of the bands we've already covered so far, Leonard Skinner and CCR, jam bands for sure. They would get on stage and take a 3-minute song and just jam on it for 10 or 12 minutes. Some of the most famous bands were like that. One second here. Let me delete some of these slides so I can get it out of the way. Let's talk a little bit about his LSD experience here in just a second, but I want to mention here that oh, wrong slide. The trip festivals is very something that the Grateful Dead was very involved in, and this is kind of like set their career off, and a few other people were involved in this, and I'll explain it here in just a second. The Acid King, Owsley Stanley, the Acid King, who supplied LSD for the acid test to the band and to the people and the experience, because this was during a time when LSD was completely legal. In early '66, they became the band's financial backer, renting them a house on the fringes of Watts, Los Angeles, and buying them sound equipment. We were living solely off Owsley's good grace at that time, quote unquote. His trip was he wanted to design equipment for us, and we were going to have some sort of lab situation for him to be able to do that, said Garcia. So yeah, this is with them being able to get sound equipment from the same guy who supplied LSD to the band in 1966. I have some information here on this guy actually. He apparently made something upwards of 5 million hits of LSD and distributed to around the world. The Grateful Dead is known for the DEA would actually follow the band around and arrest people and harass the band because of this. And there's an acid boom that you can track across the United States, especially during the 60s and 70s and so on throughout time, where the Grateful Dead was traveling around the United States and they were leaving a trail of acid in their wake, basically. It's very interesting. What they've done to our society, they've totally changed it and tried to open people's mind to love and compassion, just like we saw in that video in the beginning. So here's a poster right here from that event. The acid test is what it's called. Owsley Stanley, sorry, is his name. The gentleman who was part of this. He actually supplied the LSD for the event right here. Let's see. Here's a clip on him speaking about that right now, you guys.
Who were taking psychedelics liked. I mean, in the broadest possible sense, that's what it meant. In terms of what does it mean to musicians, what it meant to us, we were also lucky enough to have experienced the acid test, which was one of the really, truly democratic art forms to appear in this century. And it even didn't even require that we even performed. That's how loose it was. So we had the option of saying, hey, I'm too high to play. I can't do, and we would just stop. We'd play one tune and somebody would say, hey, this is it. I can't deal with it anymore. Okay, that's it, and that was fine because there was no expectation. You know what I mean? The audience didn't come to see us. They came to experience something altogether different. So we could play or not, So we had the luxury of being able to experiment freely in a situation which didn't require anything of us. It didn't require that we be good.
100%.
It didn't require
100%. Well said. All they had to do was get up there and just live their life and do what they were doing, getting high on LSD and jamming out, and just trying to change people's minds, especially during the 60s and 70s. You guys have to remember a few of the band members that we've already covered had either the lead singer or part of the band be recruited in or out of military during that time. In '69, people were being recruited in the Vietnam War. So the Grateful Dead was trying to rechange people's minds in society to be more loving, caring, and compassionate. And they definitely did a really great job, especially using psychedelics to do it. It made it less about how good the music was and more about the experience. I want to read a quote here from a police officer in just a minute, speaking about the idea that, the Grateful Dead concerts were actually more safe than going to football games. I have it right here for you guys. As each show featured new set lists and a great deal of improvisation, Deadheads would often follow the band from city to city, attending many of the shows on a given tour. Many Deadheads speak about being drawn to the culture due to the sense of community that the band shows tended later to the band's shows tended to foster, rather. Those Deadheads came from a wide variety of demographics, and many have attempted to reproduce the aesthetics and the values of the 1960s counterculture, were often stigmatized in the media, especially during that time, because they didn't want people to be hippies and run away from war. They wanted people to go to the war, and that's what the Grateful Dead was trying to fight against. So they were often stigmatized because of that in the media. Because of the stereotyping of Deadheads as hippies, the band shows became a common target for officials in the DEA and arrested. Shows became common, 100%. As the group of Deadheads were considered very mellow, a police officer, the police detective, he says that I'd rather work nine Grateful Dead concerts than one Oregon football game. He claimed that people at football games were just way super rowdy, and people at Grateful Dead concerts were, hippies. They were chill. They were trying to spread peace and love and compassion. It was all about the music and the vibe of the crowd. It wasn't about politics or war or hate. It doesn't matter your race or your color, and that's what these guys were doing. They were trying to bring people together. Here's another clip from Jerry.
When he died, there were many people, myself included, who thought, well, that'll be the end of the Grateful Dead. It may be, they may be a little slow going, but that'll be the end of it. When Jerry passed, did that thought cross your mind?
No. First off, the Grateful Dead was a fair bit more democratic than people really seem to understand. That's okay. Whatever you want to think, go ahead and think it. And what it was that we were up to was more democratic than when people seem to understand.
And Jerry Garcia, was he a father figure, big brother figure, combined? Where did he fit in?
More or less a big brother figure. We were brothers for sure, or as I've often said, what we had in the band together was, they say that blood is thicker than water, and really what we had.
I think he cut it off right there, but yeah, he said what we had was thicker than that. That's beautiful, because that shows you that we talk about this a lot, and we're going to keep talking about this because it's super important to think about, you guys. It's hard enough for 5 people to get together and just be good at their music and to play together, much less to play their music and get along together. And that's very unique. That's what these boys had. They have this ability, especially during the acid test. This is what the guy claimed, that they had a musical telepathy. This is why I talk about the language of music. It's being able to speak to somebody and know when to switch up the beat with the drums, with just by the way I play guitar, just the way I change up the speed I'm playing it, slower or faster. In your head instinctually, it's time to switch the beat up on the drums, and the bass will follow through. It's just talking to your friends without even saying words. And this is what you have to be able to do to be a jam band. You have to intuitively understand music. This is why the help of psychedelics really worked for them, because they were getting up there and just letting the music flow through them, letting speak through them, like I talk about being radio towers for the universe. They were doing that. They were just absorbing the information from the outside and playing it through their fingers or playing it through their arms, and making some of the greatest music that the world's ever seen to this day, honestly. I want to show you a little clip here from, not a clip, but a picture rather, from the band. I mentioned John Mayer is part of the Dead and Company. I want to also say that there's a couple of terminologies for Deadheads, and I'm going to play a clip here in just a second that kind of explains a little bit more about it. So fans of the Deads are called Deadheads, but it's also after 1987, when the song "Touch of Grey" came out, people after that period are referred to as Touchheads. So technically, I'm from a younger generation. I would be referred to as a Touchhead, not a Deadhead. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Let's play a clip here. Kind of speaks more about the terminologies for you guys.
The Deadhead is that person, wherever they turn up in society, that's looking for an adventure in America, something to do that's not like what everybody else does, and a chance to get out and scare themselves a little.
and I've been going to shows for like 3 years. I just got on the bus and went on, man. This is heaven right here on earth, man. When you get 10,000 people focusing on one note, it's really special.
Miracle chicken comes from I need a miracle every day. Bobby sings it.
And all of a sudden, a miracle is kind of like, where someone comes up and gives you a ticket. Sometimes you get them free. Sometimes, most of the times you don't. I mean, sometimes. That's an ultra miracle.
So it definitely gives you an idea of the scene that was going on during that time period. It's total hippie vibes, totally changed. It crafted the world. I like to mention this to people, but whether you had an impact, or whether Grateful Dead had an impact on your life or not, or whether you know anything about them, whether you know about their songs, they had an impact. They changed the world that we live in. They crafted it and molded it like a piece of clay for the better, because it's all about peace and love and positivity. And you can't get enough of that, especially in today's society. Um, I want to highlight here a little bit on Bob Weir, because his recent passing away. It's been something that's been pretty sad, and we're not going to get too much into the details of his passing, but I do want to highlight him as a human being and as a person. One of the greatest performances to me as a live performance is from a band called Slightly Stupid. It's at the Roberto's Trio Studio, and this is what got me into the Grateful Dead and kind of led me to my first experience with figuring out who they really were. It was Bob Weir during that show. He's at the beginning of the show. He's explaining the Constellation sound system that they have in the studio. And if you guys are familiar with this, Pink Floyd again, they used a lot of inspirations from the Grateful Dead. Pink Floyd uses this in their concerts to make effects such as like motorcycles driving through the crowd, or bats flying over, planes flying over, screams coming through the crowd, and stuff like that. They're able to do this because of what they call a constellation sound system. So instead of it just playing all at once, it plays like down a line or left and right, zigzags. It creates these crazy effects. So anyway, he's explaining this during the beginning of the concert, and during the concert, I'm finally able to. They even did a couple Grateful Dead covers, and a couple of Bob Weir's original songs as well. And the idea, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, these guys are real true musicians. They're like, this is why people love and respect the Dead, because they're real musicians. They live, eat, sleep, and breathe music. All these terminologies about all these different equipment and things that we can't comprehend as regulars, quote unquote. Even me as a musician, these guys are next level because they eat, sleep, and breathe music. They live it, and spreading the message of peace and positivity through their music and using psychedelics as well. It's a great combination. It's few bands have done it, and done it the way that the Grateful Dead has. One thing I didn't mention here, but I will go ahead and mention. You guys can see here in the picture over to the side, to the right, the bears, the classic Grateful Dead bears, are from the fellow that I mentioned here, Owsley Stanley, because he was their music manager, so they nicknamed him Bear. His nickname was Bear, so they created these logos right here for the band. And as you still see this today, it's super iconic. These are the two classic symbols that you see for Grateful Dead, are the skulls, and the skulls of flowers, and you see the bears. You guys got to check out some of their performances in the new Las Vegas Dome with the Grateful Dead. Super psychedelic, and they have these images going all over the wall with the band popping up and playing through it. Super beautiful. Great way to remember Bob Weir, to go watch some live performances and really see him play and perform as a person, and really understand his music for what it was. Like it or hate it, you have to respect it, because he paved the world to be what it is right now for younger musicians and for people in the psychedelic community. It's all due respect, 100%. And R.I.P. Bob Weir, and R.I.P. Jerry Garcia as well too. Yeah, I think that what this police detective said about here, I'd rather work at 9 Dead concerts than 1 Oregon football game. But that just goes to show, because you don't typically see people dying at a football game, but you definitely see a lot of hate, you see a lot of divisiveness, and you see a lot of anger and rage and alcohol. And Grateful Dead's concerts are totally different. Creates your vibe, attracts your tribe. That's some hippie stuff that is definitely based around the Grateful Dead's mentality, because they were attracting people who were trying to be peaceful and change the world with music. So yeah, cool. Finally, I'll get to some comments here for you guys. Cheers, cheers, Mushmouth Anderson. Cheers, cheers. Cheers, everyone. Yep, too young to have seen, or sorry, I see now. Too young to have seen Jerry, but have seen further Rat Dog and Dead and Company and Feeling for it. So yeah, these are some of the spin-offs of the band that I was mentioning earlier. That is their quote unquote best show from 5/8/1977. Okay, I probably will have to check that out. Yep. Carlos Santana, he's really great. We'll be covering Carlos Santana here in a couple weeks. I already have the next couple weeks planned out for bands. We're gonna do. I said we were gonna do the Hollies this week, but I crammed in the Grateful Dead due to Weir's passing. So we're gonna do Hollies next week. Then we're gonna cover the Doors, and then after that we're gonna cover Marshall Tucker. I could do Santana after that. I've got a growing list as we go on, and of course I can only do one band every single week. So. Yeah, exactly right. His guitar looked like an electric snake, he claimed, because he took that LSD from Jerry Garcia. And you got to know they were getting some of the best acid. The guy that was making it, he was their sound producer. So one of the best too in the industry, I should mention. But yeah, responsible apparently for up to 5 million hits of acid. So enough acid to literally change the world. Keep that in mind, you guys. Cool. Cheers, everyone. HB, I'm a lifelong Deadhead. Seen them a bunch of times. The live music was multi-dimensional. Yeah, that's what a lot of people claim. The idea of music being a master whenever you're on psychedelics and leading you and guiding you around has not an original idea. It's been around since the forming of psychedelics in ancient times. But the Grateful Dead, they have such a full sound, and their style is so mellow and very chill. We talked a little bit about how Leonard Skinner had to go and play after. Creedence Clearwater Revival rather had to play after Grateful Dead, and he claimed that they put them to sleep. So, very chill music, very cool for the times, and a time of war and hate and divisiveness. Cheers, everyone. Cheers. Yeah. After the show here, we'll be meeting up and we'll be playing guitar for a little bit. We'll see how it goes from here, like an hour or so. Got a couple things I got to take care of, but cool. The original bus was parked in the. Okay, cool. Cheers, everyone. Thank you guys so much, man. Cool. So next week we're gonna be covering the Hollies finally, and then we'll be moving on to the Doors, per recommendation for a follower, and us also will be doing Marshall Tucker as a request of a follower as well too. So I appreciate you guys' support so much. If you guys want to see a band, drop it in the comments. Let me know. And we'll be talking about this throughout the week with the Mystics channel as well. So I'll bring this up a couple more times. And if you guys want to see anything, just say, hey, HB, I'd love to see this band be covered. Or I would love to hear you talk about this artist individually or whatever. Because there's a couple bands that, Hayley Williams, for example, is an artist that I want to cover Paramore. And then I want to cover Hayley Williams individually, her individual music as well. So we can do things like that too if you guys want. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. And next week we'll see you with the Hollies. You'll have a great rest of your day. Come join me over on Discord on the Mystic channel, and we'll do a jam sesh. We're going to switch over to Zoom. We figured out if we play on Zoom, we can play in time together. So, yeah, come and hang out, guys. I'll see y'all later. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night. And RIP Barb Weir and Jerry Garcia, everybody from the Grateful Dead, we appreciate you guys' impact on the world and psychedelics. So, thank you for all y'all have done.